Hi, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Renke and Nolan Beilstein. We're the editors of manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have many years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we cover the three biggest stories in manufacturing and the implications those have on the industry as it moves forward. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. You could also help us out by leaving a positive review on whatever podcast platform you like. Finally, to email us with your feedback, you can reach any of us at Jeff, Nolan, or Anna at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. Typically, we are live on Thursdays at 2 p.m. This week, we had a small hiccup, but we'll be back next Thursday, I think, or maybe we'll have another small hiccup. Hiccups are the norm around here. Yeah. You can subscribe on YouTube at IN Magazine to get a notification when we do go live. So please keep an eye out for that if you're a YouTube subscriber. How's everybody doing this week?
We're doing good. If you see me dancing around, it's a little bit to make sure my knee doesn't lock up after some marathon volleyball last night. But otherwise, we're in good shape.
Jeff, you work too hard. Play hard, work hard.
That is me.
In that order.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. Nolan, how are you doing this week?
Good. This is my first AM podcast, and I look to bring energy in a way that only I can.
Okay. Not sure how to take that, but okay.
Buckle up, folks.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right. Well, before we start, we would like to bring a word from our sponsor, fintech pioneers at Klear. When demand outpaces the funding needed to sustain growth, manufacturers run into what is known as the success trap. The success trap is all too common. Enterprises invest heavily to fill orders while waiting weeks for payment. This dynamic can create a deficit in working capital that forces many to make decisions that lead to delivery delays and frustrated customers. Check out this report, The Success Trap, Why Fast-Growing Manufacturers Fail, to learn how manufacturers can avoid these types of barriers in growing their business. All right, let's roll, guys. Nolan is high energy. He is ready to kick this thing off. He just bashed his hand on the table.
That'll wake you up.
So fired up. He's just like...
He's ready to go. He's injured himself. All right, our third most popular story this week is titled Offshoring Critic to Move Ohio Manufacturing to China. Last month, Conn Selmer, a manufacturer that's said to be the last to produce brass musical instruments in the United States, announced that it would be closing its plant in Eastlake, Ohio, and moving production to a plant in China. On the line are 150 union jobs, and Conn Selmer workers, members of UAW Local 2359, are predicted to lose their positions at the end of June. The union claims Conn Selmer has had a plan in the works for a while. They said the company opened a new facility in China last year, and the Ohio plant's workload gradually began to shift overseas, even though workers were allegedly told that the China plant would not have an impact on the U.S. factory's workload. The company called the decision tentative, but said that if the move is finalized, the plant's closure will improve Conn Selmer's competitiveness and better meet today's market demands. The twist here is that the company's owner, John Paulson, sharply criticized the offshoring of manufacturing in a 2024 interview with CNBC. Said Paulson, "We can't have American producers closing American factories and offshoring. We need to protect American jobs and protect American manufacturing." Meanwhile, union leaders say they're trying to rally for a change on the decision, but nobody is returning their calls. Jeff, what do you think is happening here? What can we expect?
Well, I think this shouldn't be a surprise that they're not returning their calls. First of all, the hypocrisy that we're calling out here is definitely worth of it. John Paulson here obviously made those statements. It's also worth noting that there are some levels of separation here. Conn Selmer is part of Steinway Instruments, so there are some executive levels here. So he's not directly involved in the day-to-day with Conn Selmer. But I also wouldn't expect a lot of these emotional appeals to have much weight. John Paulson's one of those guys who made billions betting against subprime mortgages in 2007. If you saw that movie, The Big Short, he was one of those guys. So, again, he's very bottom-line oriented. And when you look at this marketplace, unfortunately, this move kind of makes sense when you're looking to cut rates because what Conn Selmer really their niche in the marketplace is not higher-end instruments. A lot of other U.S. manufacturers in this product category, that's what they focus on. It's not a large-scale operation. Like I said, more expensive, higher-quality stuff. So if Conn Selmer is going to compete in this industry where all their competitors are making stuff in China, selling it for less. This is kind of the roadmap to be competitive in that marketplace. It sucks. Nobody likes it. But if there were going to be steps taken, it needed to be sooner. This should not be a surprise, I guess, is my point. We're seeing a lot of this particular facility shutting down and moving to China. Nobody likes it. But again, the writing was kind of on the wall in the way this market is working right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the writing was also on the wall when you look at the tariffs that are involved here too, because I think China is by and large the biggest producer and provider of the metals, the brass that goes into these instruments, and they are subject now to a very heavy tariff. So what does that do to change your cost calculation when your input costs go up that much and then you're paying American workers to assemble those products? It might be a better deal, just do the whole thing over there. So as you mentioned, this is a very cost-minded individual, cost-minded company, of course. So it's no surprise that they're reevaluating their footprint here.
Yeah, these are instruments that are going to be used by kids in band class. And as a parent who's been there and gone through numerous instruments, that matters, okay? I mean,
price-sensitive group.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Nolan, what did you think about this story?
So you mentioned the tariff part, and in that same interview, it takes place in September before the 2024 election and before we knew what the tariffs would be, and he's saying how great and wonderful they're going to be, and it's a tool to save American jobs and American manufacturing. But they mentioned that they need to stay competitive, and that involves moving to China. If China ultimately is necessary to being competitive, then what does the protecting American manufacturing actually mean? Is it a principle or a talking point? And I think I know the answer at least. Mm-hmm. So if the move makes him more money, he doesn't care if it's an American or a Chinese worker doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that it was an easy platitude for a lot of companies, a little easy position to take when the pressure was on and then the screws got put to them. And some of these businesses, I think, even were in support of tariffs until the tariffs were as expansive and specific as they were.
Well, and they were also, and we've talked about this a lot too, there was such a level of uncertainty. People didn't know how to adjust their supply chains in time to either take advantage of the benefits that the tariffs might offer in their particular market segment, because there were some industries that did benefit from it. We hear about a lot of the negative stuff, okay, which is fair to talk about as well. But I think the bigger thing too, not just the increased cost, but just the lack of time to prepare. All of a sudden, these things were just hit, and all of a sudden, companies had to scramble and figure out what is the best approach in adjusting my supply chain. Mm-hmm. That type of inefficiency, just from a logistics perspective and a sourcing perspective, also create a lot of hardship here.
Definitely, yeah. We had a comment on YouTube from @Diana Day who said, "Spread the word and boycott companies that pull this kind of thing. It is wrong all the way around." And it's a good sentiment. I think it's a little harder in practice these days when everyone's getting hit by this, and not in such a public way. Also, I think you're not always seeing the fallout. It's a little bit more quietly done, especially if you're not going on CNBC and making this statement. Maybe people don't notice this as much. All right, so our second most popular story this week, Cargill to shutter Wisconsin plant and cut more than 200 jobs. Cargill says it plans to shut down its beef plant in Milwaukee by the end of May. The move would affect 221 workers, although some could shift to a nearby plant in suburban Butler, Wisconsin, one of 7 other Cargill facilities in the Badger State. Cargill indicated in the filing that shutting the plant would better align its portfolio with demand, as well as prioritize the company's investments. The Milwaukee plant primarily produces fresh beef, ground beef, and other value-added products. It does not slaughter cattle. The company said that ground beef production would move to other Cargill facilities in North America without affecting customer contracts. Cargill is just the latest meat producer to close one of its beef plants in the U.S., where years-long drought conditions have reduced the overall cattle herd to its lowest level in decades. That shortage, combined with strong consumer demand, has pushed beef prices towards record highs and cut into meat processors' bottom lines. Nolan, what do you think is happening here, and what can we expect?
Well, I found an old, I guess not old, a few weeks old, a Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel article that said Cargill's been reducing its Wisconsin footprint in the Milwaukee area for the last 12 years. It had facility closures in 2014 and 2021, One was a beef plant, one was, I think, cocoa related, so not beef, but still reducing a Wisconsin footprint. And then your article also mentioned Tyson and JBS closures recently. So my question was, does the beef consolidation increase the stakes for supply chain disruptions and price volatility? Do you guys worry about that?
I mean, I don't, because I'm a vegetarian, but I did just see an article in the Wall Street Journal where the headline was, "The beef industry has a message for consumers: get used to high prices." They basically are saying that this is not going to change, so that consumers need to just adjust because companies were getting used to the higher margin that they had got post-pandemic, and they have no reason to increase their herds and lower prices. That they just,
Well, the consumer is not shying away from buying beef right now. Even with, the consumption levels, the purchasing levels, they're still high. And really, I think one of the things that isn't talked about enough in all of these dynamics with beef prices is the fact that, yes, there's this drought and that is affecting herd size. But I think the beef processors are very comfortable with that for some of the reasons we just mentioned, but also along the lines of one of their biggest costs is labor. During the pandemic, all these folks put in extra time at Tyson, JBS, wherever, and afterwards, they demanded to get paid. The average increase in wages from 2020 to now is like $8 an hour. So those are some huge costs that all these beef processors are incurring. At the same time, over the last 10 years, and I'm not going to go into increased carcass yields or anything like that, but the average beef herd, the average animal is like 100 pounds heavier than it was 10 years ago. So we're getting more efficient in terms of generating more meat, if you will. We're also getting smarter, if you've gone to any food show, in terms of the way we process these animals. So the yields are higher from bigger animals, so we don't need as many. That's just the reality of it. And then when you're paying these folks more than you have in the past, I think the cost figures these stories sort of write themselves when you look into it. They always want to look into the droughts. I don't think we talk about the screwworm issue enough, the things that are going on the border. That's also a huge issue. But at the heart of it, in my opinion, is the very simple fact that we can get by with fewer cows because it costs more to pay these workers, and companies don't want to do that if they don't have to. And I think that's what's really driving a lot of these workforce reductions here.
With fewer facilities, don't you worry like a boar's head plant thing could really wreck the sector? If there's fewer facilities and one big problem hits one of them, there's less to pick up the slack.
100%. That's always going to be an issue with any supply chain. We've seen that in automotive. We've seen that in a number of different areas. Yeah, absolutely. That's a concern. I think, again, the overriding consensus is people seem to pay for their steak. So I just don't think the price concerns are there. And if they can eliminate headcount because labor is more expensive than it was previously, they're going to continue to do that.
Well, and you kind of wonder, too, what the role of, the food industry is very heavily dependent on migrant and immigrant labor.
Yeah,
and with that situation with, ICE and concerns over raids, and we know that workforce is shrinking currently, and maybe they also just don't have the ability to tap into that anymore like they once did.
Yeah, very true.
All right. Our number one story. I can feel your excitement.
Here's where that energy that only Nolan can bring to the podcast is going to be shown.
All right. Early morning energy. All right. Wind turbine graveyard in Texas sparks lawsuit. The state of Texas filed a lawsuit against industrial waste recycler Global Fiberglass Solutions for illegally compiling approximately 3,000 wind turbine blades and parts at 2 disposal sites in Sweetwater, Texas. Court documents state that Global is hired by companies to break down, transport, and recycle turbine blades. However, the company allegedly failed to properly dispose of the waste and instead created a stockpile of nearly 487,000 cubic yards of solid waste. The lawsuit added that Global and other defendants never acquired authorization to operate, process, dispose of, or store industrial solid waste at either facility. Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, conducted a series of investigations at both sites from 2018 to 2025. The first was based on an anonymous complaint that Global had engaged in recycling activities without notifying the commission. TCEQ told the company that it needed a permit to store industrial waste if it does not recycle 75% of material per calendar year. When the commission returned in 2021, they allegedly found the sites unattended, with the office door and all gates locked. And a plant employee confirmed that it had been closed since April of 2020, all while the sites had added more blades since 2020 and had never recycled the required 75% of material since operations began. In 2022, TCEQ entered an agreed order against Global, which required it to stop storing additional waste, maintain records of its activities, secure permits for both sites within a year, and submit compliance certification by October of 2024. Alternatively, the company could remove and properly dispose of all unauthorized waste by the same deadline. But investigators revisited the facility in 2025 and concluded that Global had abandoned the facilities, accepted additional materials still, and had not removed any waste. Another investigation in October found similar conditions. The state of Texas is seeking monetary damages of up to $1 million. Nolan, this is like a hornet's nest of bad practice. Tell us what you think was going on here.
I almost didn't write this story. I saw the lawsuit. I'm a sicko. I like reading through lawsuit documents because there's always some weird stuff in there. And I almost didn't write. I was like, this could be fun. There's a lot of comments on our YouTube saying that they're criticizing wind energy, and they're like, it's impossible. It's not ever going to work. And I don't see this as like a wind energy failure, more just like an operational failure. I think all manufacturing sectors have waste and disposal challenges. I don't see criticism when we run an article about coal or nuclear waste. They don't question its purpose. And I think if there was less green energy complaining and more investing in friendlier legislation, we'd possibly be further along now and be better at recycling and repurposing these things, because industrial recycling is hard, especially for these large, massive wind turbines. And there's still companies and regulators are still figuring out kind of how to do it because it's relatively new in our country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And you know what is not relatively new in our country? Plastics recycling. And we're still terrible at that. And you don't hear people routinely like calling for plastic to be abolished. So I agree with you. I think that it's like an unfair, it has really nothing to do with the product at hand. It is really this company's like negligence. Jeff, what did you think of this story?
Well, first of all, Nolan was talking about liking to read through lawsuits. I'm envisioning him and David like in smoking jackets,
just like nerding out
in leather chairs by a fireplace. David with his NTSB reports and Nolan paging through lawsuits and talking about high level regulatory issues.
Remind me that I have plans that day.
Yeah.
As far as this goes, agreed. This is not a black mark on wind energy. This is a black mark, number one, obviously on this company, on Global Fiberglass Solutions, but as well as the people that were using them. There are so many red flags with this company. Not only were they sued by General Electric over this facility in Texas, because that's where all of it came from. It was GE. They contracted with GE to recycle all of these blades. They had a similar situation in Iowa with one of these basically, parking lots of disposing fiberglass blades. So there's a lot of stuff here. And when you look into this company further, it was founded in 2009. The CEO, who you would expect to be some sort of materials engineer, his specialty was sociology. And he basically had this really cool idea of, hey, let's rip down these turbines and recycle them, and we can make all these pellets and granules and then make those into something else. As you alluded to, Nolan, this is hard. Mm-hmm. Fiberglass is not made to break down. It is extremely durable. It does not decompose. And it is really hard to recycle, because if you've ever looked at just a piece of fiberglass, you can see it. It's in the strands and everything else. It just doesn't break down very easily. It's also not very helpful to the environment in the process you need to go through in order to recycle it. So it's one of those things where everybody wanted this to work and it's a cool idea. It never worked. It was never proven out. It was never a viable option. What's also kind of crazy is when you look at Global Fiberglass Solutions, their website is still up. Their social media accounts are still up. So this is one of those situations where we don't want fear mongering and we don't want to always promote the bad stuff that's going on. But you feel like the DOJ or the state of Texas or somebody needs to get involved and be like, stay away from these guys. And this type of technology is not there yet. Don't go investing millions of dollars in providing them with these huge pieces of land that are basically just going to be there to become pollution centers. Because again, these are the types of plastics that can also break down, get into the ground, get into the water, bad stuff. So just a ton of red flags, and you just wish there was a little bit more due diligence before we trusted this startup company with something of this significance.
For sure. And like the article focuses on this, this entity, this company, but what's underneath all of this is some probably individual is just quietly taking money for taking people's, product off their hands, saying that they're going to recycle it and never doing that. So even when they're being investigated, they're still just taking the stuff in and getting paid for it.
What if they at least put it into not that this is better, but their default, obviously, not being able to recycle it, but put it in a warehouse or something. Don't just drop it in the middle of a plot of land someplace. I mean, that's really not trying.
So you think they could have covered their tracks better? That's what you'd have done?
Well, at least if it's sitting in someplace, it's not going to be seeping into the environment and slowly not breaking down over centuries of time. It's just kind of frustrating from that perspective, too. It's like some of this stuff, it doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned, but the reported or alleged amount of the stockpile is nearly 487,000 cubic yards of solid waste.
It's horrible.
Yeah. How many warehouses is that?
Fair enough. Okay. Good point.
Everything's bigger in Texas, right, Nolan?
I have heard that and lived it.
And lived it. All right. Before we get into our In Case You Missed It, which are stories that didn't perform as well on the website, but we think maybe they should have. We are going to take another word from our sponsor here. This week's episode is brought to you by the fintech pioneers at Klear. When demand outpaces the funding needed to sustain growth, manufacturers run into what is known as the success trap. The success trap is all too common. Enterprises invest heavily to fill orders while waiting weeks for payment. This dynamic can create a deficit in working capital that forces many to make decisions that lead to delivery delays and frustrated customers. Check out this report, The Success Trap, Why Fast-Growing Manufacturers Fail, to learn how manufacturers can avoid these types of barriers in growing their business. All right, in case you missed it, let's start with Nolan this week because he's so high energy.
That's right. This one deals with integrity issues and perhaps straight up lying. It's called Robotic Dog Made in China Gets Indian University Kicked Out of AI Summit. It involves a private Indian university called Galgotias University, and they were reportedly ordered to take down their stand at the India AI Impact Summit in New Delhi because the school's professor of communications told a news station that a robotic dog that they called Orion on display at their booth was developed by their university's Center of Excellence. Internet users pointed out that the robot is actually the Unitree Go-To sold by Chinese company Unitree Robotics. I think we've published some of their stuff before. Galgotias issued their first statement, said that the incident was a propaganda campaign and it could harm the morale of students working to build and use these global technologies.
Ooh, that's a good defense, actually.
Oh my goodness. And then the next day they came out and apologized and said the professor was not authorized to talk to the media and they were ill-informed. And I just chuckled at the irony of the professor of communications getting in trouble for saying something that wasn't true.
Oh, man. So AI has some principles, is what you're saying?
At least for designing robotic dogs.
Interesting.
There's so many things in that headline, like just so many key words.
I know. It is a...
Kicked out. Yep. When you first read it, you think like the robotic dog, like shoot him out of there.
Yeah.
Like, no, they just made an inaccurate claim.
Was it at least cute? Do we know?
You know what? The interview I found like on Twitter, it's some state-run media, but they don't even show it on the camera. He's just like, "What is this?" And the lady goes, "This is our dog that we designed."
Oh.
And then
all right.
So they weren't really well prepared to defend their situation either. They were held accountable. Well, AI accountability, that is important.
We don't know anything about it, to be honest with you.
You think we made this? Mm-hmm. Oh, whoops.
I mean, we did make it, but yeah. Jeff, what's your In Case You Missed It this week?
So I'm always careful on these cybersecurity stories to pick these out because I can feel Anna getting nervous and anxious whenever we talk about these.
My palms are sweating.
But I did
weak.
to get some of Nolan's energy, get you going here. So I did pick the latest episode, actually, of Security Breach. We had a guest on there, Will Dixon. He is from Intel 471. They're specialized in talking about the OT threat landscape. So all the different threats that are out there, all these different hacking groups. And this was one of our, in my opinion, one of our most interesting episodes because we specifically talked about the growth of these Russian state-sponsored groups. Now, historically, they've been termed hacktivists. When you're a hacktivist, it's because you're not affiliated with anybody. You are doing these things based on personal beliefs. It really started in the Middle East with a lot of groups going against Israel and trying to break into their infrastructure. Russia adapted a similar model, but these are no longer hacktivists. These folks are state-sponsored. They are given money through Russia and really have very specific targets here in the U.S. It started looking at critical infrastructure like wastewater treatment and things like that. Now they're very straightforward in going right after manufacturing. They see the impact that it can have. The industrial control systems used in utilities and other places like that obviously mirror those used in manufacturing facilities. And the overarching point is, number one, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're operating a cheese business here in Wisconsin and you have these industrial control systems, which everybody does, they're going to come for you. And they're going to try to shut you down, and they're going to try to ransom you because that is part of the overarching plan of Russia now to disrupt operations in the West, as well as anybody else who is helping to support Ukraine in that ongoing conflict. So in addition to that, though, Anna, we didn't just talk about the scary stuff. Will also pointed out a number of things, and really basic things that manufacturers can do to protect themselves, to become aware of these attacks, how to respond to them, and just be better acquainted with the enemy, if you will, in preparing for this because it is an ongoing battle that is just part of the new operating environment as a manufacturer. But he laid it out very well. And again, it was not fear-mongering. It was not raise everybody's blood pressure and get everybody fired up. It's this is real, but here's how we can solve this problem. And I think that's one of the biggest evolutions we've seen in cybersecurity over the last couple of years in manufacturing is before it was, oh man, what are we going to do? There's all these things going on. And now it's, we know what to do, and there are solutions out there. I thought that was one of the core things about the episode.
I mean, you say this, but then are you responsible for the headline, which was "Hybrid warfare is upon you"?
We need people to read this stuff, Anna.
All right.
We need people to get out there and start looking at this stuff.
Yes, I agree.
But yes, I did write that, although it was a direct quote.
Really?
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
Hybrid
warfare.
I liked it.
It's not helping.
Nolan liked it.
All right.
Must have his kind of
I only
energy.
like good things,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Oh, all right. All right. Mine, in case you missed it this week, I picked a story titled "Small Aircraft Went from Concept to Flight-Ready Prototype in 71 Days." The story is about Divergent Technologies and Mach Industries, who announced a partnership to deliver Venom, a prototype flight demonstration aircraft showing hardware development at software speed, they said. So Mach established the baseline requirements in architecture using the avionics and simulation from existing tech stacks with a modular open systems architecture to accelerate development from concept to flight. They went from inception to flight in 71 days. The CEO of Divergent said it was a clear demonstration of what's possible, and it will drive the rapid scale-up of this system, producing thousands of airframes annually. It uses something called the adaptive production system. They say it can collapse traditional multi-hundred part assemblies into unified, additively manufactured structures to accelerate production and dramatically reduce overall part count. I thought it was exciting, very interesting as a case study. It scares me a little bit because I know that this is defense oriented. And I know this is probably what the defense industry wants, is to compress these timelines. But is there risk involved, and how do we find out that it doesn't work until a very, terrible situation occurs? Jeff, I know that you have a history in military and is of personal interest to you, but did you see this?
First of all, cool name. I mean, Venom. Yeah. I mean, definitely great job there. I think whenever you see these concept to prototype in 71 days, the first thought is, man,
makes you nervous, right?
It makes you extremely nervous, and you wonder about the costs associated with it. You worry about rushing. The military and the Department of War now has a definite track record of rushing things to market without validating them as quickly as we'd like. I mean, just look at the Osprey. I mean, that helicopter and all the issues that have gone on there. So It's tough though, because on the other side, the only way you're going to find out if this stuff works is to actually put it into action. So it's a tough line to balance. I would feel more comfortable if it was after the fact they were talking about concept of prototype timelines and say it worked, as opposed to just basically saying, well, hey, it only took us this long and now we're ready to go.
Yeah, now we have the prototype.
Really, it's just the prototype.
Untested.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah. I know. I can see why you want to issue a press release about this, because it is very compelling and interesting, but it is also terrifying, in my opinion.
Well, and personally, this is right up your alley. You want one of these, right?
Yeah.
Personal aircraft, that's totally...
For sure. I mean, exactly. And I want it to be made as quickly as possible. just burn through that process as quick as you can.
There's no unease over airplanes lately.
No, none. All right. So before we get out of here, let's do some final thoughts. Nolan, do you have a final thought for us this week?
Yeah. So I'm an old soul, and one of my favorite artists, Bruce Springsteen, is announced he's going on tour again.
I saw that.
He's coming to Chicago, and the tickets go on sale today. I'm going for it. I'm going to go for it.
That's awesome.
I have a hard cutoff. I'm not going over 300. Sorry, Bruce.
I wonder how much, do you have any idea how much they're going to be?
I saw an article that said it could be from like 70 to 500, like if you want to be in the front row or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's I think it's the United, where the Bulls and Blackhawks play.
Center.
Yeah. But we set a $300 threshold. We'll see if I stick to it.
Yeah. So I assume you're just going to go solo?
No, my girlfriend will come with me.
So it's $600 on tickets. Well, I hope that you get them. That's exciting. That's kind of once in a lifetime thing.
And he's
right?
like 76, so
Yeah, this could be it.
Oh, is he really?
You never know how much.
I did not realize that.
He looks like he's doing great, though.
I love Bruce Springsteen, too. So good luck, man.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Cool. My final thought this week is my 2 daughters are Girl Scouts. We're preparing for Girl Scout cookie selling season. I'm not ready. It's like if you've never had a Girl Scout, and I know, Jeff, you've had several.
Yes.
I think it's hard to understand just how important this is as a fundraiser for the troops to continue to do the stuff that they do, but also how much work it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you see a Girl Scout in your local area and she's selling cookies, even if you don't want to buy them, just be nice. That's all I ask. Just be nice. Smile. You don't have to, And nobody needs a weird excuse either. You don't have to tell people the kids that you have diabetes or anything. That's not necessary. Just smile. Just smile and say no thank you.
Yeah, I can remember, and the worst would be because we didn't get the cookies beforehand. I think you kind of get them now.
We do,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was always fun too. People order them, and then you get them, and then trying to track them down to deliver the cookies and collect the money. That was a good time.
That sounds terrible.
Back in the olden days,
sending some
Venmo.
muscle.
Yeah. Although right now you're signing on for $3,000 worth of cookies that you will be financially responsible for if you don't sell them. But we're going to sell them.
But you know David Manti, so you don't really have to worry about.
I know, exactly.
Cookies left over. You'll be fine.
I'll just be like, hey, I have 67 boxes left, and he'll be like, all right, yeah.
Also, nice.
Did you? No, you did not.
What am I supposed to do?
Oh, I'm sorry. I know that's it. I hear it a lot. It's in my brain somewhere. Jeff, what's your final thought?
My final thought is, we talk a lot about, you're talking about dodgeball. You guys did well there. We play softball in the summer, and we've got basketball right now going on. And I'm at this weird point where I want to be out there doing it, but I don't want to necessarily be the most competitive guy. Yeah. Because I'm not anymore. But I get sucked in, and I'm really worried about becoming that guy who's taking it too seriously when it's beer league, recreational sports. So just a reminder to let people check you on that a little bit if you start becoming that guy where it's just, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You're really just doing this for exercise, and then you can go have a couple of beers afterwards with your friends. But I did catch myself with the basketball game. We've lost too many close games, and this one just kind of really bothered me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, just kind of check yourself a little bit.
It's okay for us to say, hey, Jeff, take it down a notch.
Yeah. Hey, man, really? You're 50 years old and you're playing, basketball at 9 o'clock in a high school gym on Monday nights.
Get a grip,
it's not
Jeff.
a big deal. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. We can do that at the office too if you want.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Everybody just keep me in check.
We'll do.
Okay.
Will do. All right. Before we go, just a reminder to please like the podcast, subscribe to it, share it, whatever floats your boat. And if you want to email us with your feedback, you can reach us at Nolan, Jeff, or Anna at in.com with email, the podcast in the subject line. Subscribe to our daily and weekly newsletters, please. You'll hear from us more if you want that.
Get Nolan's energy sent to you every day.
Right there in the morning with your cup of coffee, Nolan's energy, like through your computer. On that note, thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next week.